Why independent living? And if independent senior living feels like a great option to you, why is it so hard for your mom or dad to even talk about it? I'm your host, Valerie Lynn, and this is a question I hear from families all the time. And in this episode, I'm so excited to welcome Ginni Ryan, the Vice President of Operations for Revel Communities. At Revel Communities, Ginni is responsible for the operations of the entire portfolio of independent living communities. She has over 25 years of experience in senior living, and over the course of her career, Ginni has developed a deep understanding of the needs and desires of the senior population. She uses her experience to design actionable, innovative strategies to help achieve not only company goals, but to improve the lives of seniors. I always love having industry professionals on the show because it helps give that insider view of senior living. And today is no different. We're talking about making that move to an independent senior living community, the complexities of making the decision, and the benefits senior living has to offer.
I think we're getting better as an industry of changing that image, but I still, we've had people that walk into the community and they look around and go, okay, I had no idea, because they're thinking of, a very clinical setting with people sitting in wheelchairs and hospital gowns. And that's not who we are anymore.
Welcome to Desperately Seeking Senior Living, a podcast for sons, daughters, grandkids, spouses, and all caregivers who suddenly find themselves tangled in the search for senior living and care. If you like today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and check out our doable download in today's show notes for a printable summary of the show and a bonus tip. You're listening to our doable tips, short answers to your questions. Don't see your question listed? Send us a note. Then don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an answer.
Hello.
Ginni, hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm really good. I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Me too. I'm excited to be here.
So, based on all of your experience, what would you say is just the number one thing that families should know or are concerned about or confused by? What's just that one thing that keeps coming up for you?
It would be that people have a thought in their mind what independent living is, assisted living is, and they really do go back to the old-fashioned nursing home, and they have that image. I think we're getting better as an industry of changing that image, but I still, we've had people that walk into the community and they look around and go, okay, I had no idea, because they're thinking of, a very clinical setting with people sitting in wheelchairs and hospital gowns, and that's not who we are anymore.
Right.
And so it's refreshing to see that. But I still hear conversations of, I'm not going to a nursing home and they're a completely independent person. Well, of course not. Of course you're not going to a nursing home. We wouldn't let that happen. But there still is a thought in people's head about what senior living and senior care is. And it's so much different. It's changed just in the 25 plus years that I've been doing it so much. So I think encouraging people to go see with their own eyes, and go experience for themselves and not just rely on a thought, that they have in their head from, 40 years ago, because it's a new day.
Absolutely. And don't you find that you're also working mostly with adult children?
In independent living, not as much as assisted living or memory care. We work directly with the resident. But yes, the adult children are still involved, and they still definitely have influence. So yes, but not as much as care related communities.
Well, and and the reason I'm kind of thinking about that is that when it comes to those misconceptions about senior living being like a nursing home, it's almost like we're educating two sets of people. Like,
Are.
right? Because we're educating the adult children who are what I find and what I do, because I also have a company, Clear Path Senior Living Solutions. So I also help families find placement. And yeah, so that's the other business that I have. And I often find that I am, helping the adult children to help their mom or dad see the difference that a senior living community is and can be for them. So it's almost like you're
Yeah.
doing kind of double,
You
like
are.
double work. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then you're dealing with the emotions of family who have a little guilt. They feel
Oh,
they
yeah.
feel that, they should come live with me, or I should be
Mhm.
taking care of them. And so that can be difficult. There's a lot of guilt. And then of course we have the,
Yeah.
just the whole family dynamic conversation. Um,
Yeah.
and with Revel, we don't see that guilt very much because it is truly independent living, and it's, resort style. I don't know if you've seen a Revel or been online.
Yes.
They're
Yep.
extraordinary.
Gorgeous.
They're gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. But there is still some, it just, people have to work through that, making that change if they're selling a home that, kids grew up in or they've been in for 40 years. And the reality is they're only spending time in two rooms, but they have all their stuff.
Mm.
That
That's
still applies in
yes.
an independent living. I mean, even though the
Yeah.
apartments are good sized and we have
Mhm.
cottages, it still applies. So there's a
Yeah.
lot to work through.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's interesting that you brought up that part about the 2 rooms, and I wanna go back to, something else that you said, but very often we think that we're utilizing our entire home as
Yeah.
we age, and then it turns out, no, it's just the living room and the kitchen and the bathroom. Like, a lot
Yeah.
of times I have clients that are sleeping in recliners. They're
Ex
not even sleeping in their bedroom. So, you've got that too. But, going back to what you said about work, you still have to work through things. I mean, I think no one really, we don't usually think about leaving our homes. Like it's hard, I think, to make that shift between your house as a home and a place like Revel as a home.
Correct. Yep.
So, how do you help families or potential residents sort of get past that obstacle?
Yeah, we have a program. It's called Homecoming, and that starts from the very beginning, in which we really get to know them, their likes, their dislikes, what they want to do, what they don't want to do, making sure we pair them with other residents that are similar. We've got those that they love to do that, and welcoming them into the community at their pace. Some people want to come in and meet everybody and they're, at happy hour the first week. Others just want to go a little bit slower and just get used to it. But it's important for them to understand that, the whole community is, we're a community. We have to share, and we're all in one community, but it's their home. And to see the value of using, the fitness center and using the theater and spending time with other people, that has been the most important, is making sure we connect them with other residents, because nobody likes
Yeah.
to be the new kid. I don't care how old you are.
No. Unless they're that rah-rah person, unless they're that one who is like the
Right.
social butterfly and
But
they're
even still, it still is a little uncomfortable, right? Like,
Yeah.
some of that, I think people will be rah rah, but a little bit might be an act, right? Like, they're still a little uncomfortable. And
Yeah,
just making
maybe.
sure that we help with that transition into the community, at their pace, and that every
Yeah.
every leader in the community is a part of that, so they know exactly who everybody is.
Yeah, I really love that. What does that look like exactly? So is someone filling out a form that just talks about all the different things that they love?
Kind of. I mean, it starts with sales and the sales team
Right.
getting to know the family and the resident. And then as they move in, we actually have a kind of a schedule of which directors will meet with the resident and explain what they do and how they can
Mhm.
help them. And we
Mhm.
make sure, that they have an ambassador assigned to them. So when they move in, they have a whole packet. Here's your
Yeah.
ambassador. Here's all the, community leaders. Here's the schedule. We have menu. We have a full restaurant. It's called Ovation. Here's the menu so that they know who to contact. And then throughout, it takes about 6 to 8 weeks. We have each director meet with them. Depending on the resident, we might do, a breakfast with certain other residents, or a lunch, or a happy hour, so that they can meet other people. And then the ambassador also really helps integrate them into the community.
It's like having a built-in friend.
It's like having a built-in friend and then, introducing friends to other friends. And
Yeah.
it's super important not just to have them move in and move on, right? We've gotta
Yeah.
make this a great experience for them. And
Yeah.
Revel is all about the resident experience. And that starts obviously, when they first start looking, but most importantly,
Mhm.
the first day they move in. We have food for them in their apartments so that they don't have to
Oh,
worry about,
wow.
I'm
Oh, I
gonna
love
get
that.
dressed and go down to the restaurant. No, when you're moving, nobody wants to deal with that. So we make sure that we have food for them when they move in and that there's water.
I have to do like a quick little shout out. I worked at a community that we did that too. And I
Yeah,
always thought that was
huge.
just so it's like love is in the details,
I was
right?
just gonna say, it is about the details. If they're
Yeah.
if they're bringing in a pet, making sure that we know we're very pet friendly. We love pets, but if Fluffy the dog needs a new pet bed, we'll have a pet bed there. We'll have dog food there. Whatever the case may be, we also help coordinate the move for them if they need help in terms of finding movers or estate sales. So anything that we can to make the transition smooth and let them just really not have to worry about, well, I mean, you always worry about, the moving piece is just never fun, but get through that as quickly as possible and get to the
Mhm.
experience of living at Revel.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And the other thing I would like to point out for our listeners is that I actually have a client right now that we're going and we're looking at all these common areas and he's like, "That's nice, but I'm a loner. I'm never going to be
And that's
joining in
okay.
activities." And exactly, I wanted to bring that up that it's also absolutely okay if moving out of your home into independent living means that you feel safer, that your kids feel safer because you're not home alone, you're surrounded by
Mhm.
people, but then guess what? You also have your private apartment where you can be as private as you want to be.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And I usually find people that say that they're a loner or they're private or quiet,
Mhm.
still find a couple of people that are similar and they still build those relationships. They're not at happy hour every night, and they're not joining in every event. And again, that's okay, but they still find, a group that they can socialize with and spend time with, which
I'm
is
so glad
beautiful.
that you it is beautiful, and I'm so glad that you said that because what's interesting about my client is that the community he ended up choosing I'm sorry, it wasn't one of yours. There wasn't one of yours close by, but
Okay. Can't be all things to all people, right?
that's right. But his comment about the community was that he loved the people. And here was someone who was saying, I'm going to be in my room. I'm not
Yeah.
going to be socializing. And I had that same thought that you did that I was like, I bet he finds a couple of people that he connects with. But it's interesting, right? So it is true. It's like combining what you're saying, which is sometimes maybe that fear part. I'm not going to socialize because it is scary, like we were talking about
Yeah.
earlier. But then, choosing a place that feels comfortable and like home
Right.
and friendly. So yeah, that gave me hope that he is going to connect, with a few other folks. So what does what does your process look like on move-in day? Like, what is so you've mentioned the food, you've mentioned, like, what can families expect on that really stressful day?
Yeah, so I mean, we make sure they know, like you said, that the love is in the details, exactly where to park, exactly where to have the truck. We have the elevators available for them. We will, help remove boxes. If, family is staying, if family is helping and they want to stay and go down to the
Mhm.
restaurant, we'll make sure that we've made them a reservation and just
Nice.
help get them settled. And then, we usually give people a couple, 3 days to settle in and, get
Mhm.
their things put together. And then we start with our homecoming program where we'll start introducing to other residents, to team members. We'll talk about hosting, a breakfast or lunch or a happy hour for them. But I think in the first day, just making sure we're making it as simple as we can for them to make that move. And again, moving it stinks, right? Like it
Yeah.
stinks.
It
But
does.
and just having it coordinated and that everybody on the team knows that this person is moving in and the truck is going to arrive here and they're going to park towards the back and they're going to be utilizing that elevator or that hallway and just coordinating it so that it's again as smooth as we can possibly make it for them.
I really love that, and I think that's really good advice for anyone, even if they're not, if they're moving into a different community, is that communication piece. Like, you guys initiate that, but if they're moving into a different community, then just making sure that everyone's on the same page because it is a stressful day.
Yeah,
And as
very.
easy as, I always say over communicate, like more communication is better and just making sure
Mhm.
that everyone has that really nice experience or as nice as it can possibly be. And I love those few things that you guys do. So when families are thinking about a move, I feel like we're seeing, I don't know how you feel, but I feel like I'm seeing a lot of families, a lot of seniors that want to stay living in their home a lot longer. And sometimes that means that they're not independent anymore when they make their move. So what advice do you have for families who really feel like their mom or dad would benefit from moving before they need assistance? And, how do they approach that conversation early?
Yeah, I think it's the reason why people don't wanna move is because they have that picture in their mind of what it is that they could be moving to, and it's usually not the right picture. I think it's very important for families to take their loved ones, their mom or dad, to different communities so that they can see that it's different. Experience a meal, go to a happy hour. At Revel, our prospects that are thinking about moving can participate in any of our events or our programs.
I
We
love that.
we also do, a staycation suite. We have a beautiful staycation suite, and so they can come stay with us for 3 to 4 days. We don't
Mm,
charge them. They can have meals, they can experience it, and that answers questions, or it gets that, "I wonder if," or "I wonder what it's going to be like." So, I really encourage people to do that. And our staycation suites, they people that come to our staycation suite almost always move in because they get to experience it and it's beautiful. So it's I just think people need to see things with their own eyes. And it's that fear of the unknown for anything really, right? Like you build things up in your mind because you don't know. And then when it happens, you're like, oh, that was kind of not that big of a deal. It's very
yeah,
similar. And it is a big deal. Like moving is a big deal, but they have to have a full understanding of what the move is going to look like and where they're
yeah,
going to be. And once you ease them into that, whether it's, coming for meals or coming or doing a staycation, it takes away that fear of the unknown. And
yeah,
then they can be ready to make this amazing change in their life where they can come live their
yeah.
best life and
Mhm.
make friends and do what they want
Yes.
to do, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, exactly. And I love the idea. So I have a whole episode on respite, which is pretty much the same idea of staycation. I like your word for it too. And at least we know our listeners know what staycation means. So respite, that's something that a lot of families don't even know what that is, but it is
No,
a short-term stay.
right.
And I love this idea. I also really love the idea of going to events. And isn't it fun? How many times have you had those residents who did a staycation or came to events and they see someone they know?
Yes, and in some of
Right?
the smaller markets, it seems to happen quite a bit.
Yes,
Um,
I love
and
that.
and that also, leads into residents being your best salespeople. I mean,
Right,
they are your
exactly.
best salespeople, and we encourage any person that comes in to visit with us, they can ask residents anything they want to.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
have a community, and we're looking at expanding on this a little bit. We have a community that we actually have some residents do our tours.
Oh my gosh, do you know how much I love that? So I was the tour guide when I worked in senior living, and some of our family feedback was they loved the families that came in, and let's say I was on another tour that ran late. And so now we're looking at the backup person, and the backup person was the maintenance director. Their feedback was like amazing. Like they
Yeah,
loved having someone who had a different perspective. And I love when I go on tours and we're meeting residents and so I think that's amazing. And the other thing that I really like about that is that as we age, that doesn't mean our life is over.
no,
Right? As we age, we still can find purpose and joy and having the task of being the tour guide for someone who loves that, like would love to do that as, their job or whatever. I love that. You're giving a senior an opportunity to do something that brings some value to themselves as well.
exactly. It's a really cool process. We start the tour with the salesperson and they'll, just have a conversation, and then they will literally, hand them over. And then it ends with the salesperson, but they show them the model, they show them common areas, they get to know them, and then it's been really, really successful. So you have to have the right resident, right? Like somebody has to
Right.
really want to do that. And again, those
Yes.
people that are kind of shy and quiet and maybe don't, that's okay. But I think every community has a group that would love it. And
Right? I love the idea. Now, I have to ask you though, is this a paid position?
no,
Are they getting any kind of deal from this? Are they
they are ambassadors, and we do have, like, quarterly events for our ambassadors, and it's usually, like,
Okay, there we
dinner
go.
or a happy hour, but no, it's not paid, and there's no, kickbacks or anything of that nature, but we do really recognize them and take special care of our ambassadors because they're amazing people.
Yeah, and I like a party. Who doesn't love a party? So there we go.
Yes, and a party at Revel is a party like no other, let me tell you.
Oh, I love
We
it.
do wine pairings with courses. We do chef's table, beautiful, beautiful events. And then we do barbecues too, right? Like just a good old fashioned barbecue. So everything
Yeah,
in between. But
I love
yeah,
it. I love it. So you talked earlier about independent living.
yep.
Why independent living versus moving into a community that has future care? Or do you have the ability for future care?
We,
Most independent communities allow in-home care. I'm guessing
yeah,
you do as
yeah,
well.
we do. We will never be assisted living. We will
Right.
never be an assisted living light. That's not what Revel is. We are truly independent living only. We do have supportive services. We partner with physical therapy groups that come in and use our fitness centers, either for therapy or personal one on one training. We have
Mhm.
concierge medicine at most of our communities. So physicians will come to them. It's really about the experience. And our experience is not focused on what somebody can't do because of their age. It's what they want to do. And I do feel, assisted living, memory care, they do have some challenges to do all of those
Mm.
things because of the licensing that they have,
Yeah, depending on the state you're in.
depending on the
Yeah,
state,
yeah.
So
Mhm.
in independent living, we don't have that.
So you have more freedom, you
We have
feel,
more
to yeah.
freedom, and, we do focus on wellness, and not just,
Mm.
physical wellness, but emotional wellness. We do sound bathing and forest bathing.
What
Yeah, and
I haven't even
journaling.
heard of forest bathing.
Oh, yeah, that's our community in, Colorado Springs. They do forest bathing, and
Wow.
it's
Wow.
it's really pretty magical, and the residents love it. So,
Oh my
we
gosh.
don't provide your typical activities of daily living, ADL care, but care
Mhm.
comes in all kinds of forms, right? And
Yeah.
we do have a different freedom. We fill a spot that hasn't been in the senior living industry for as long as I've been in it, and that is usually your independent living is a blended community, or they provide
Mm.
more care. And so it does over time become really truly an AL light. And that's not who we are. That's not the
Yeah.
service that we want to provide.
So along those lines then, what's your age
Our
requirement?
average age is 78. So I mean, we're still dealing with older seniors, I guess.
What's your youngest?
55.
Okay, so you do go a little bit
Yes. Yeah,
younger,
we do. Oh,
which
absolutely. And
yeah,
and then
so I
everything
love
in
that.
between. And I understand the question, but I got to tell you, we had 4 residents at Revel, Nevada, over 90, all women, jump out of airplane. And we've got the
Oh
video.
my gosh.
They all did it.
Wow.
And then we
Wow.
just had one of our residents who was 99, and he was a pilot, and he always wanted to jump out of a plane. And he said he was going to do it when he was 100, but then changed his mind and said, "What am I waiting for?" He just jumped out of a plane.
Oh
So,
my gosh, I love
age
that.
is, I know it's cliche, but age is just a number. It
It
really
is
is.
true. I mean, there were some 94-year-olds in the independent living building that I started out with in Springfield, Illinois, that, like, I would be like, "I am so tired from running around all day," and you're like, "You guys are making me, like, look bad," because they were just running
Yes.
around the community,
Yeah,
so, yeah, absolutely, age is relative,
it is.
but I do like that you have younger residents, because I as hard as this is, what we're talking about, making this decision to move into an independent living. So there's no physical need, right? You're moving in to enjoy everything that you guys have. But in making this decision, it is so hard. It's so hard to do, but so many of the seniors that I have met and worked with over the years, and we're talking in the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, right? Probably thousands of families. So, such a high percentage of them say, I wish I would have done it sooner.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is so true, and has been my experience as well. Why didn't I do this 2 years ago? Why
Yeah.
didn't I do this 3 years ago?
Yep,
So,
yep. There's a whole piece. I think we saw a lot of it. Of course, we haven't really talked about social isolation. I think that really came to the forefront during COVID, and it was
mhm.
kind of put on the map. And I'm so grateful for that, because I don't think it got enough attention before then. But I think that's another reason. I think that's just one of those things that it's like, being in this community, even if you are a private person, just opening your door and knowing that you're around all of these great
Yeah.
people, that you can, if you want to, you can go have a meal with, or, do an activity. I think just having that knowledge, having that
Mhm.
available is so powerful. And like we were talking about earlier, I think it does kind of help people to come out of their shell a little bit and at least meet one or two people. You don't have to be the life of the party.
Right, right, and we see
Yeah.
residents that do that, and they'll just go into like our restaurant or, our common areas, and they'll sit and read a paper, or just sit and not talk to anybody necessarily,
Mhm.
but they're around people. And that's enough
Exactly.
for them, and that
Yes,
feels good, but again, they're not
exactly.
the social butterflies, but they're around people.
I think it's so what's so important is then it leads you to seeing other people who are jumping out of airplanes and going, "What is my dream? What is
Right.
the thing that, wow, I just saw a 99-year-old jump out of an airplane.
Mhm.
Maybe I can do the thing that I've been dreaming of and haven't accomplished yet." And
Mhm.
whereas sometimes being isolated in your home, that just kind of prevents that opportunity from even seeming possible. And
Right.
so that's the other, advantage that I see. And I think, everything that we're talking about today, I honestly feel like you and I, when we get to this age, whatever age that is, I don't think I'm going to want to leave my home. I don't think, we're everything we're talking about today is so important because I actually do feel like we're talking to the adult children because they're the ones that are seeing mom or dad isolated or mom or dad calling them like 5 times a day because they just want someone to talk to.
Right.
And so these are sort of those beginning signs, because I think for so many of us, it is going to be so hard to leave our homes that sometimes it is the adult children going, mom, you call me a lot and I love you. But, there's this great community where I feel like you could make friends. And, so I do feel like sometimes the conversation oftentimes starts with the adult children.
Absolutely, and that's true of independent living only as
Yep.
well.
Yep.
That it they're again, the kids are still involved, family is still
Yep.
involved
Yeah.
for good
Sometimes
reason. Yeah,
sometimes it's just that little nudge to go, I'm going to take you out to dinner, but it's going to be at this Revel community.
right.
Right.
Yeah.
And of course, they're pre setting all of that up with you guys. Well, so Jenny, we've talked about a lot of different things. What would be just your number one doable tip for families?
That's a great question. The number one doable tip for families would be, as I kinda said before, is you gotta get out there and see the community. Let your mom, dad, or loved one have some of the experience. Take away the fear of the unknown and go out and visit. I think, the websites and brochures and all that, that's beautiful. They're all beautiful. But it doesn't replace the feeling that you get when you walk in to a community. And at Revel, like when you go to any of the Revels, you're in a Revel. They're all slightly different. They're in different markets, but you're in a Revel. Again, it's taking away that fear of the unknown and experiencing it. And let them stay in a staycation for 3 or 4 days, go to some events, go to Ovation for dinner. That is the biggest thing that I can recommend because I know that people, will talk with families and talk with families and talk with families and describe it over the phone, and we'll finally kind of get them to come in to visit. And truly, it's like people are like, "Oh, I really had no idea." And you feel like, "I know. That's what I've been trying to tell you." But of course you can't say that, but it just doesn't translate until you experience it for yourself. And that is my recommendation, is for people to definitely get out there and have the experience.
Today's episode is brought to you by ClearPath Senior Living Solutions. ClearPath helps families find assisted living, memory care, and other resources. Find our contact information in today's show notes. Check out this episode's doable download in show notes for details, including industry terms and definitions we discussed, as well as a bonus tip. Have questions or your own tips to share? Leave us a message. We'd love to hear from you. And until next time, make it doable.